Now, the next topic is medical records and medical lingo. Graham Dobbs is the speaker. Graham is a former rock star as well as a RN crew, and he has a tremendous amount of knowledge of medical issues, medical terminology. Welcome, Graham Dobbs.
That literally was Dr. Whittle. So the other day, I knew I was going to be coming down here to stand up in front of all of you, and I looked at my tie rack, and it was pretty ratty. So stick with me, it's going somewhere. I went down to the local men's tie place, which will remain nameless, sort of a warehouse kind of and shopping through the tie rack and everything else, and the gentleman strikes up a conversation with me. And it turns out he's a doctor. And, well, that's great. He's not only a doctor, he's a forensic pathologist. And so he's testified in some high-profile cases. And he says, what do you do? I'm an attorney. And he says, oh, that's nice. So he used to be a nurse. He said, oh, that's great. You know how to speak the language. I said, doctor, that's exactly right. And I'm going to be wearing this tie on Friday when I talk about that very thing to a bunch of lawyers. So, that's my tie story. How do you like my tie?
Very good.
Thank you. So, our topic today, we've got a lot to cover. I've kind of tried to squeeze a couple of things in here. Doctors and lawyers do speak differently. We talk a completely different lingo. We have to explain to them what we mean by a reasonable degree of medical certainty. It's more likely than not. We use long-winded foundational things in our testimony with the doctor that we have to go over with them and explain them. They have processes we don't understand. They use language symbols we don't understand. They document things in formats that look like something you pick up at the Isle of Dearborns. I mean, you've got, so that's the way doctors typically write notes. They go through the subjective of where does it hurt, the objective, what did they find in their examination, the assessment, and the plan. PI, that's the convention for nursing notes. Okay? It's problem, intervention, evaluation. So medical people, scientists even, will speak differently than we do. When we say speculation, that's bad. That's just a guess. Sometimes for them, that means that's an educated guess. That they can say more likely than not, based on what they've reviewed. It's not 100%, but more likely than not. Oh, okay, sure, I can testify to that. So, there's this. I can't really help you with this, but thankfully, electronic medical records are being mandated more and more. You'll still see the occasional handwritten record. There's very little you can do other than practice to try to decipher this. What we can do today, and what I hope to do today, is equip you with some very basic tools that are going to allow you to interpret and understand medical records, medical terminology, and some very basic medical issues. And that's going to allow you to be, if not the most knowledgeable person in the room, at least the second most knowledgeable. And while you're being a lawyer, help control what's going on in the room. And you're going to be able to help the jury understand your case. Well, you say, well, Graham, that's great. Where can I go to start getting some of this information into me? Well, you've got some of it in your outline, and we're going to hopefully have provided you step-by-step things that you can start using today. But there's good news, bad news in this presentation. And the bad news is, I don't know, you may think this is bad news, but here's where a lot of it is.
I've never heard of crocodile crossing an ocean. Well, they conceal information like that in books.
Yes, books. Does anybody, do they even use books in law school anymore? Okay, good. All right, well then books. All right, dirty, smelly, heavy, and maintained in a library somewhere that you've got to go dig through the stacks to get. Yes, books. Books are useful. Books also work when your computer crashes. Books work when the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Books work when your pad has virused itself to death. So let's start with what's the first thing you need to start speaking the language. You need a translator. Well, you can talk to your expert. If you're on my side of the case, that's going to cost you an enormous amount of money. If you're on the defense side or you represent a healthcare provider, you can speak to your client. That's going to cost them money. You need a basic Rosetta Stone. I'm going to suggest a few things here. One is Tabor's Cyclopedic Medical Dictionary. It's something that I've maintained in my library since nursing school, years ago, and have maintained it on my desk today. There are other resources. You see, but Graham, I hate books. I hate books. You know what? Just about every one of these suggestions I'm going to have for you, there's the online computerized, go click on it and get it option for you. So MediLexicon, that's a pretty good thing. You can start, if any of you are up now, you can start checking medical terminology, especially if you get bored with this. I'm going to suggest something that my partner and mentor, Marcy Graham, had suggested as part of this topic, looking at my bookshelf and looking at our bookshelf. Really, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to develop a library that you can keep of basically pocket-sized or very portable resources that you can look at. We've talked about a medical dictionary. There's Washington Manual of Medical Therapeutics, published right here in town, and it is one of the best-selling and best-known medical textbooks. And it's a textbook back in my day that residents used to carry around in the lab coat. Now they have it probably on a pad. But Washington University also publishes different manuals in specialty areas, critical care, surgery. So it doesn't take much to have one or two of these books and you have concise medical text right at your fingers. Something that we maintained on every nursing cart or in every drug room when I was a nurse is the current year version of the Nursing Drug Handbook. Nursing is a nursing journal. This is a very concise, information-dense record on just about every kind of drug that's ever ordered or given to a patient. And it's a very handy resource. I would suggest also getting a laboratory a diagnostic manual. Mosby's is a good one. All of this together, all 5 of these books, ordered on Amazon Prime here recently, for less than $168, came in 2 days. Okay? So, yeah, but Graham, I really, really hate books. Can't stand books. Well, you know, most of them activate your ebook. It'll come with a key. There'll be a disc that you can have an electronic version. Add to this library as you go. I would suggest starting with a very fundamental, basic nursing text. Potter and Perry is something that I used in nursing school. You can find these online for, $30, $40. If you end up doing some work in a different specialty area or an area of law, a lot of accidents, a lot of injuries, orthopedics, emergency medicine text would be something to look at. Talk to your expert. Talk to other attorneys who've been practicing a while. Some of these have quite a very respected reputation as generally accepted texts, standard texts in the field. And there's a little information on that later that hopefully we'll have time to get. Again, there's the online option for just about every one of these things. Medline Plus will give you a medical encyclopedia, lab test information, drug information, health topics, videos. Videos are great. We've already touched on that a couple of times here. Pictures worth 1,000 words, videos even more valuable. So I'm a visual learner. I've got to see it. Trigger warning, this is not going to be gross. This is not going to be, gory or anything, but it's a surgery setup thing. It's artificial. So if you're just that squeamish about it, play Candy Crush, whatever it is you're going to do, but hopefully this will be cool. And can we... Yes, ma'am. So if you want to see what's going on, you want to see how heart surgery is done, this is a good site. You can pick out some videos to look at. You may have to set up a profile, but some of them you can access from
Professional surgery at the University of Washington. I'm the surgical director of heart transplant and mechanical circulatory support. I'm the program director of our surgical residency, and I'm the director of our simulation center for cardiac surgery here at Kansas. So what you saw today was one of our residents working on the beating heart simulator. It doesn't replace a residency.
So we just pulled that up live here. You can go to that site, you can search your topic, you can search see if there's a demonstration of what goes on in a procedure. This is a great site that I like for anatomy. You've got a question about, some system. It's broken down by system. Let's look at the nervous system, please, Diana. You can go in on any of these and focus in on different areas. Pull that up, it'll give you a great little tutorial. You can change angles and views. You can change from male to female. You can do all kinds of great things here with this site. You can go through all the body systems. So, thanks, Diana. Lab tests, here's your online version for getting the lab tests. WebMD, sort of the Wikipedia of medical education, but it's pretty good. You're going to have a lot of topics. You can look at A to Z. You can have a symptom checker, which is kind of cool. You can put in what's wrong with you and come up with a diagnosis for you. Drugs and supplements, again, or videos. This is the sort of Westlaw of peer-reviewed medical publications, PubMed, without some kind of connection to most of these journals. All you'll be able to pull up is an abstract, because hopefully we'll discuss them a little bit. An abstract is a good place to start anyway. You can search by topic here. This is just an example of cholecystectomy, gallbladder removal. So you can pull up a lot of articles and look at those abstracts to see, is this something that's going to give us some guidance in my case? Don't forget professional organizations, accreditation boards, professional societies. Each one of them, I can almost guarantee you, are going to have some resources online for not only just the healthcare professionals, but information for the general public as well. So there may be some very helpful statements on there, very helpful educational pieces that help get you oriented. Okay, great. You've got a toolbox, hopefully, that you can start using today. How many people gather medical records on a routine basis? Quite a few of us. And so you'll kind of know what I'm talking about here. If you have to gather a whole bunch of them, they come in a giant pile or on a disc, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. You've got to organize it, then you've got to get down and get into the nitty-gritty and find which pages of these actually matter. So I'm going to suggest how to do this, and many of you probably already do it. But as they come in, don't worry about reorganizing them at that point. You want to maintain your foundational link to these records so that they're admissible and usable in court. I've got copies of the business record affidavit statute and the medical bill statute in your materials. Just follow them. They lay out what you need to do to lay your foundation to have them easily admitted. So why have that hurdle? Index them as they come in by date, provider, bait stamp them as is. Scan them in. I can't claim that I know how to do this. This is magic. My assistant does all the, and then search for this, please. And then we get, bookmarks to main points in the medical record. But once you've got all that electronicized for yourself and your use, then you can start maybe putting together your working copy. And you can also use this guide to follow through the records you get. Because back in the old day when there was a paper chart, there used to be little tabs and everything. You can still do that. You can still do that in your chart now. But electronic records, the lines are more blurred. But look for these different kinds of records, and you'll identify them maybe by section. The admission records. Very often, the very first point of contact is the emergency room. Those will be right up front. The very first document that is really put together and evaluating the story of what's happening in this hospitalization is the history and physical. That's the head to toe, everything that's going on, going wrong, going right, come in the door. The discharge summary, the same thing on the way out the door. Progress notes are supposed to be made every day by the physicians. They will call in specialists who will write consult notes. All those will be together, hopefully, in a physician's note section. They will write orders. There will be a section for physician's orders. And then the nursing notes will show that they were carried out. Documentation in a medical administration record. Documentation of the daily nursing care. The lab tests that were performed. Each should have a report of some kind in the record. So you can use these kind of categories to help organize your record. Same thing to a lesser extent in the office notes, the daily progress notes. If a patient comes in, there'll be those. There'll be a section of lab tests. There'll be maybe a health history questionnaire that this person filled out, giving you a lot more general information. Telephone logs of calls, correspondence with other healthcare providers. records that they received from hospitalizations, test results. So that'll help you kind of organize it and navigate your way through this. And I'm going to suggest, kind of what I already have suggested, is looking at the most information-dense records that you can to start. And just get an orientation of what's going on with this story. The history and physical, again, is a great thing to look at from the hospital records. Discharge summaries. If you know the specific dates or approximate dates of when things occurred, start looking at individual nursing note, progress notes, consult notes during that time period. Or critical specialty, you want to see the consult note, you want to see the operative report on what happened. So look at those kinds of information-dense records and then spread out from there. The chronology. And I've got a couple of sample chronologies, just short, very beginnings of sample chronologies in the record. Keep it objective, and you can share it with an expert or somebody who's kind of a guide to, you know, here are the records you need to be looking at. It'll save you money. You can start adding things into a separate chronology that are subjective, your work product, links to different things. Again, don't share it with the expert or you lose your work product. That will be discoverable. Are there things to look for? Certainly, red flags in medical records. Yes, there are. Late entries can be harmless, can be innocent. They can mean, uh-oh, you know, I forgot to document this really well, and I'm going to maybe add this a little bit. Errors in charting should be clear, should be just stricken through and then clearly noted as an error. That, again, could be completely innocent. Overcharting, when we're explaining, we're losing, right, at trial. So when you see a very sparse medical record and then all of a sudden this huge story, you know somebody's trying to set the story in a different direction than it actually went. All I'm going to say about electronic records in this event, you should be able to track who accessed the record at what time. There'll be initials, there'll be a key to who's doing that, there'll be timestamps in this electronic record, all of which the institution has to track. And remember the words audit trail. That's a whole CLE in and of itself. But if you ever need to track down who changed the record, why it was changed, who accessed the record, go after audit trail discovery. So what do we do now that we have a toolbox of information? We know how to start navigating the record. We know how to interpret the record. Of course, we have to use it in our case to benefit our client, to support our case. We're going to talk a little bit about depositions here, and I hope I have time to get this. But I've got some examples of sample outlines to think about, both for a treating physician and then for a retained expert, which is a completely different animal. You know, something that Steve taught me early on in advocacy, and Joan mentioned it too. Let the facts argue. Let the facts argue. So you want to have a section early on with any witness of facts that they're going to agree with, that are actually in the record, that are your good facts in the case. And you want to get this witness starting to condition to go with you as a credible person. You know, you not only know what you're talking about, but you're actually getting at the truth here. And that gets those things up front. So look at those outlines. They're just suggestions. I'm sure you're going to have big improvements on them, but at least it gives you a start. You know, we're the lawyers. We don't have to out-doctor the doctor. The doctor makes a mistake when they try to out-lawyer the lawyer. If you get lost in the middle of a deposition, there's nothing wrong with having that witness do a little bit of work for you. Well, doctor, you're saying this. Take me to that part of the record. Let's slow down. Let's take me to that part of the record. Where is it? Let them do some of that work. But if you've done your homework, and we'll go through some of this, you may end up knowing maybe more than the expert. So I call this part of this is applicable to whichever kind of expert, whether a physician, a healthcare provider or not. So, you know, if you're not good at math, what can you do? Well, you can study up. You can work hard. Basically, this guy, the medical version of this guy is going to show up at a medical deposition. Oops. He was going to show up.
He wasn't going to show up.
Oh, where are we going? There we go.
Rockwell Automation's retrocabulator. Now basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magneto-reluctance and capacitive diractance. The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurting bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of six...
All right. You know, we know now how to decode the jargon. We're going to do that. There's good news, bad news, like I told you. If this expert has done a lot of testifying, great. Good news. They probably said, right, let's make it real simple. They probably said some stuff about some issue in your case somewhere before, right? Maybe even under oath and a bunch of other depositions. Maybe they wrote some articles. Maybe even a court has already figured out what a clown this expert is. Maybe not. Maybe this expert's the real deal. If they're the real deal, bigwig expert, guaranteed they belong to an institution who set out the rule, who set out very dependable and credible information that you can get and hold this expert's feet to. So maybe this is out there online somewhere. Bad news? Yeah, you gotta find it, you gotta read it, you might have to pick up a book. Good news again, this bigwig expert's gonna have a CV that's jam-crammed full of this stuff. Bad news again, you gotta get through it. So are there cases from courts that have made decisions on the validity of this expert's testimony? Ask for a federal court testimony list the last 5 years. Every piece of testimony this expert's given, whether by deposition or trial, in a federal court. They usually have to maintain those. They'll produce it even in a civil case if you request it. Guaranteed that you have colleagues, if this expert has been around a while, that have deposed the expert, have trial transcripts, deposition transcripts, got a little information on the expert. Don't forget to Google them, and talk about that in a minute. So what are we trying to accomplish? You want to learn about your opponent's case, sure. You want to learn about your case, that's fine. To set up some challenges, try to keep some information out. Dobbs, the new Missouri statute, that's beyond this CLE, that's a whole CLE in and of itself, motions in limine. Well, that's great if you can accomplish that, that's marvelous. For our purposes, let's assume it's all coming in. What do you do then? Well, yeah, you have to box in, get all the opinions, all the bases for the opinions, what are they relying on? You have no opinion in that area, there's nothing supporting your opinion, that's great. Box them in. But the real goal is advocacy. The real goal is advocacy. And you want admissions from this expert that you're right. You want admissions from this expert that you're credible. And if you get enough, you've made this expert your witness. If not, you're going to be able to show the expert through your credibility that you know what you're talking about. And you're going to condition that expert at deposition or your cross at trial. And that's going to make your job a whole lot easier. The expert will know what's coming. So you're prepared, you do the homework, you control, you're the lawyer, you get to decide the playing field, you get to decide what questions to ask. Cross-examine. You know, if this is not your witness, this is the other, you lead the witness. Ask short questions, cross-examine, and stick to your questions. You help the jury to decide, and you can be the most knowledgeable or the second most knowledgeable person in the room. You know, don't forget, I mean, they're big-time experts are human beings. They may be the department chair of whatever important-sounding institution. Very impressive. Yes, but do they have any hobbies?
Exit. Yea, Lord Taffy.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a certified public accountant for the state.
Your witness. Mr. Taffy, I understand that you're president of the International Conclave for Unidentified Flying Objects.
That is correct, sir.
Where was your last meeting held?
Behind Mars.
Yeah, so you don't want to have this credibility problem. So whatever organization this person belongs to, guaranteed they have a statement out there somewhere, a policy, a standard, and you can find it. Well, let's talk about this. This is a clinical policy on, I've got a stroke case, great, perfect. It's clinical policy as a result of a collaborative project between wow, two important sounding doctor organizations here. It's a twofer. You know, not only the emergency doctors, but the brain doctors. I think this is important enough to have a clinical policy. Putting evidence. We're lawyers. We love evidence, right? This is going to be good stuff. Safe and effective. I'm a plaintiff's lawyer. I love those words. Patients must. I like must. That doesn't sound like it's optional. That sounds like something they have to do, right, doctor? You must. Well, that's your protocol. That's another wonderful word. I love must. Close clinical monitoring. I've seen that phrase a lot. You'll see it pop up on another site here. Close clinical monitoring. Very important stuff, right, doctor? Check the person's CV for the articles they've written. You can't decode what it is. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Stick to something fairly simple and straightforward that might have a point the jury can understand. If it's too complex, you're just going to irritate everybody. The judge might not get it. The witness might not get it. The jurors definitely won't get it. Ask the witness during deposition, is there anything that you've written in your professional literature that has any bearing, directly or indirectly, on any issue in this case? No? Great, perfect, move on. Well, yes, there might be. Well, let's just take a minute, go through, let's circle these. Do you have a copy of that you could give to the lawyer that produced you here, and I could request it from them? Oh, perfect, great. If you can't figure out what it is from the title of an article, it's not going to help the jury. Stick with something fairly simple. We talked about the abstract. There will be an abstract and a conclusion in each one of these articles. Start there, start at the beginning and the end, where the summaries are, and then hone in on, is there a main point? Guaranteed on any article, any text, there's going to be something you love. There's also going to be something that will come around and bite you. So be careful how you use these, and you just know that rarely is any one article going to be completely helpful for you. Check, where does Einstein work or teach? Guaranteed, there's a website out there. Johns Hopkins, important place. Surgical never events. Oh, doctor, that really sounds like something that should never occur, right? Okay, great, we can agree on that. That's what your institution says. Okay, this is the close clinical monitoring again. This came off of a website for a hospital. A little girl had a very condition they published about on their website. Brought back in, had vital signs, were in the danger zone. They sent her home without repeating those vital signs. And their website says this child needed close clinical monitoring, including vital signs. The medical literature, I want to kind of skip through here. There are case citations in your record that kind of walk you through that, laying that kind of foundation. But basically the point is it a standard text? Is it generally accepted and accredited as reliable within a field? There only needs to be some evidence of that. Again, the witness can do it, your expert can do it, the court can take notice of it. And you can use it in your cross-examination of their witness and can, on cross-examination of experts, but you can use it also as background of your witness. So, and that's handy to have because, in this case, there's an expert that's been brought in to say this person that was discharged from the hospital, septic, a terrible systemic infection, was causing their kidneys to shut down because they had no blood pressure. It's calling to say, well, that evidence in the record where the blood pressure was low and the kidneys, we knew the kidneys were failing, we sent them home anyway, no big deal. Well, doctor, would you agree, this statement that's in this book that you said was authoritative? Yep, I wouldn't dispute that. Great, we can agree and we can move on to that issue. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, that was a good definition. Well, I know it's a good definition. I read your book. They're like anybody else. They're going to recognize familiar things, and they're going to compliment you. They're going to tell your opponent, your judge, the jury, how good you are at this. Impeachment, again, there's just general rules on impeachment, and that's our point. We want to be able to control this witness and show the witness that we know where they're wrong. So this is the close clinical monitoring thing. This girl's vital signs were in the danger zone. She was sent home without even repeating the vital signs to see if they were still in the danger zone or not. Found an expert to say, no, that's really not important, no big deal, standard of care doesn't require it. But not only that, never even heard of such a thing. Well, I read his policy, but he hadn't.
Doctor, would it be important to know what a child's vital signs are before you decide to send them home?
Certainly the standard of care does not require repeat vital signs in every patient before they're discharged home.
Are you saying that you are unaware in any institution you've ever been at that there is a requirement to repeat vital signs prior to sending the child home to an emergency room?
As best I can recall, I've never seen that as a requirement. It would take up way too much nursing time.
How many, what would mark as exhibit 10 in your deposition? Look on the last page. Dr. Mark Hostetler, that's your name, correct?
Correct.
You recall approving in May of 2006 for the University of Chicago Department of Pediatrics vital signs for the Pediatric Emergency Department.
Correct.
The purpose for this document was to provide guidelines for standardizing the frequency and method of age-specific vital signs in the Comer Emergency Service.
Correct.
What it says toward the end of the paragraph is any abnormal vital signs reported in Comer Children's Emergency Services will be reevaluated and documented prior to disposition and discharge.
I want to move on because I want to get to another.
Is that the
Point is,
requirement?
you wrote this, right? What'd you forget? So not so ridiculous now, is it? Don't hang around in their playground. You're the lawyer. You get to decide where to play. Cross-examine and break it down. Short statements you know are true, they look foolish. Get an answer to the question we asked, and commission the witness. This guy knows, he knows what's coming, cautioning me, well, yes they are. Thank you. Wasn't that easier? Same thing. So make sure you get a clear answer to the question. Don't let them rephrase that question. No, I'm not asking you to guess. Here's what I'm asking you. Well, here, what are your bases? I don't have any. Great. Then that means you don't have any. You're wrong. What Einstein doesn't know can and will hurt Einstein and will help you. They haven't spent as much time with the record as you have. That can be embarrassing, such as you have the right patient. That's important.
And where you say that this is an alert, pleasant 58-year-old, this is what told you?
I don't know, because obviously it's the wrong age, so I don't know if I had dictated a history of physical prior to him and had that age in my mind or something, but it's obviously, the age is incorrect.
There was a corrected report filed in this case. Is that right?
And which one?
The pathology report, surgical pathology report from the gallbladder specimen.
I'm looking at it.
First time.
And it says correction of patient demographics only. The patient was originally incorrectly identified as a different as age 58.
I see that.
Did you become aware before today that it had been misidentified in the medical record?
No.
You examined the right person.
I examined the right person.
Dramatic pause. Don't talk over it. Don't come up with something else. We want things.
I can remember what room he was in.
What room was he in?
I think 204, bed 1. I'm pretty sure of that.
If it says 206-1, would that be
206.
Doctor, would you agree with me that it's important to make sure you have the correct patient identified?
Of course. There's so much fun.
Getting deposed is thirsty work. So once the witness knows, you're not going to get lost. They're not going to be able to keep you off your game. You know a little something about what you're talking about, and you can and will demonstrate where they're wrong. They're going to go where you want them to go, and they're going to do it even more at trial. So I'm going to skip over this. The main point is witness number 1 got booted because we've done such a good job in showing he agreed with our case. They did something smart. They went and asked our expert, who he thought was a bigwig expert, and they went to get bigwig to be the replacement expert number 2. Bottom line, on the issue of whether the disease was diagnosable, the disease was diagnosable. Never saw witness 2 at trial.
Every TV doctor knows, the longer the pause, the bigger the drama.
Okay, now this is witness number 1, who gave us a bunch of damages that we didn't have before, and I almost talked over it.
this cutting edge therapies, can you give me in general, very, very general sense, how cheap versus expensive they are currently?
Oh, astonishingly expensive.
Wait for it, dummy.
In terms of the...
Obscenely expensive.
Never saw witness one. Okay, so once you are prepared, once you exert control, you're going to be credible. You're going to be able to make this your witness or show the jury where the witness is wrong. So hopefully this has been helpful. And you've got some tools in your materials. Look through them to get you started today. One thing that I have the great pleasure of doing every year that I do this is handing out the $200 medical library to one lucky recipient, Grace Shimwell from Ford, Marshall, and Baker. Is Grace here? Grace, here is your $200 medical library. So hopefully you